Hello, it's Tanya from Tanya Jewelry, and today's video is about layout dies and easy ways to use markers and Dykem fluid to lay out your designs so that you can see even the most minute of lines, or when you want to scribe around something and saw it out exactly to fit an inset shape. So there are a couple things that I use to help me with this. One is the Dykem layout fluid, the standard that comes in the jar, the dauber, and in the past I have used the Dykem marker, but this is a paint marker, not a die marker. So I want to show you how you can make a die marker in this video. So this one is a great way to apply material, but it's really messy and it leaves that ink and mess all over your bench in your studio. So basically you just open it. It has a brush-like container in here and you're going to apply it to the surface. It does take a hot second for it to dry, for those solvents to evaporate, and so I often will use a heat gun at my bench to dry it faster. Now there is another version which is the dauber-like model. The reason why I don't prefer this is it doesn't leave as nice as a layout, and it tends to want to dry out, and as you start to use it, be careful because you don't want it to make a mess all over your space and end up in your jeans or all over your bench, because it can explode and the top can come off if you press too hard, and it sort of leaves a bit of a mottled effect or even a streakier effect. So it's not one of my favorites. So in the past I was using the Dykem marker, and they have now stopped carrying these in a lot of places. They're hard to get. I used to carry them myself on my website, tanyadavidson.com. But now I'm not carrying them. They also tend to want to dry out quicker if you don't use them as often. So I've come up with a new version or way to do this. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Dykem versus Sharpie. So Sharpies have been reconstituted or reformulated over the years. So they do have different chemicals in them. They do contain a dye plus a resin plus a solvent, which is either ethanol, methanol, or isopropyl alcohol, where the Dykem is a dye plus a solvent, one of those, probably ethanol or methanol. So they do burn out. So you do need to use all of these with good ventilation or with a respirator mask on, especially when you're burning it off. Both of these do burn off cleanly in the torch, so you don't have to worry about that, but they do burn off around 600 degrees, where when we're annealing sterling silver, we're wanting to get to between 1100 and 1200 degrees. If it's argentium, it's 1050 to 1150, so 100 degrees or 50 degrees lower than sterling silver. So you want to keep that in mind, that even though we might use this as a visual indicator of annealing, it only is a visual indicator to when it gets to 600 degrees. Then you need to hold it for longer to get to the full annealing temperature. So one way that you can use this in a more handy version, other than this really messy container or the dauber, which I don't really like, is to get yourself some 3 ml/cc syringes at, say, Tractor Supply, any of your dog and cat supply places. They look like this. They don't come with needles or anything. And then all you need to do is take the top off, and you can use your syringe to go in and extract as much as you need. And then you're going to want to go to Tanya Recommends, which is on my website, tanyadavidson.com, and click on Tanya Recommends, and you'll find these empty pump markers. They're super easy to fill and refill over time. They have a little stainless steel ball in the bottom that helps to keep it all mixed up, which it really doesn't settle, and also to keep it flowing, but it flows beautifully. So I've been using this for a while at my bench, and I'm so impressed with it because it does leave a really nice line, pretty thick line, without the streaking and without the mess. So I can get a solid line that looks really nice. And once the pen is, you've used it a couple times, it just flows beautifully. So you can quickly cover an area without getting it all over your tools and all over your bench and all over your supplies. And then, just to show you why I love the Dykem marker so much, you can take this is also under Tanya Recommends. These are called vinyl weeding tools. They're the size of a sewing needle, put into a pen, and they come with refills so that you can refill your scribe. So instead of buying the thicker scribes, which are considerably thicker, I was going to show you an example. So this is the other version of one that you can buy at Rio or AutoFry. It is much larger. So when I draw a line with this under the microscope, it's a lot bigger than using the sewing needle. So you can see the difference. So it takes up less space when you want to get a very accurate line for sawing or cutting or engraving, anything you want to do. The other thing is when I am sawing and turning it in the light, I can still see that line, where when I'm using Sharpie marker, if I'm using my hands and I'm turning the piece, I can actually rub off my line. So I don't like that, especially if you have oily or you put lotions or anything on your hands, like glove in a bottle before you begin. It's going to rub off your marks, where this will not rub off the marks and leaves a beautiful line, and it burns off cleanly. You do not need to remove this with any solvents or chemicals. I try to avoid using chemicals in my studios as much as I can, but it will burn off cleanly, so you don't have to do anything with it. Just go ahead and put it in the torch and go ahead and solder. You don't even need to pickle it before you go ahead and solder. Just burn it off while you're applying your Prips Flux. Go ahead and solder, and it's good to go. It's not going to impede your solder from flowing at all. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, learning about some tips and tricks for making great layout lines and tools to use that work beautifully in your studio. Whoops, I almost spilled that everywhere in my bench. In your studio for precise work when you are trying to do hinges, mechanisms, engraving, any of those things. You're going to find that the Dykem really helps stop the reflective glare and give you an exact line that you can see with our aging eyes especially. Have a great day.